Right now, there's a ship the length of 4 football fields sailing across the Pacific. It's carrying 20,000 containers. Your Amazon package might be on it, your neighbor's new couch, somebody's entire warehouse of sneakers. And here's the twist. The company that owns that ship might be losing money on almost every single container in it. Wait, losing money? On a ship that's completely full, doing exactly what it's built to do? Yeah. And once you see how this industry actually makes its money, you'll never look at a shipping container the same way again. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about the shipping industry. Moving your stuff across the ocean isn't really the business. It's the excuse for the actual business. So today, we're taking apart how cargo ships actually make money, the empty container problem that quietly bankrupts shipping lines, the bizarre financial betting game running underneath every voyage, and the one number that matters more than anything sitting inside the container itself. Stick around till the end, because next week's breakdown might be the weirdest one we've ever done on this channel. Let's get into it. Let's start with something almost nobody thinks about. A container doesn't just travel one direction. Picture a giant ship loaded up in China, sailing to Los Angeles. Full. Every container packed with goods heading to American stores. It drops everything off. Now it needs to sail back to China. Here's the problem. America doesn't export nearly as much stuff back to China as China ships to America. So that same ship, sailing home, is often carrying containers that are half empty, or sometimes completely empty. Think about that. You just built a $50 million ship specifically to carry cargo, and on half its journeys, there's barely anything inside it. This is called a trade imbalance, and it's one of the most brutal, unavoidable math problems in the entire shipping industry. Empty containers still cost money to transport. Fuel doesn't care if the container's full. The crew still gets paid. Port fees still apply. Some shipping routes run so imbalanced that carriers are effectively paying to sail empty boxes back and forth across an ocean, just to have them positioned for the next full load. It's like running a delivery truck that's stuffed on the way there and completely empty on the way back. Every single day, forever. Here's where it gets genuinely wild. The price to ship one container across the ocean isn't fixed. It swings, violently, based on global supply and demand. And I mean violently. During the 2021 supply chain crisis, the cost to ship a single container from Asia to the US West Coast spiked from roughly $2,000 to over $20,000, in some cases higher. A tenfold increase. On the exact same container, the exact same ship, the exact same route. Then, less than 2 years later, rates crashed back down, sometimes below where they started, as new ship capacity flooded in to chase those record profits and overshot demand entirely. Imagine running a business where your product's price can be 10 times higher this month than it was 6 months ago, and then crash below where you started, all without you changing anything about what you're actually selling. This is why shipping companies don't really think of themselves as moving cargo. They think of themselves as trading a commodity, space on a ship, the exact same way a trader thinks about oil or wheat. The container is almost incidental. The real business is betting on where freight rates are headed next. Now, here's a detail that genuinely surprises people outside the industry. A huge number of the cargo ships sailing the ocean right now aren't actually owned by the shipping company operating them. They're chartered, rented essentially from separate ship-owning companies who exist purely to build vessels and lease them out. This creates an entire secondary market running underneath the visible shipping industry, where the real money often gets made or lost. Charter rates, just like freight rates, swing wildly based on how many ships are available versus how much cargo needs moving. A shipping company might lock in a long-term charter at a fixed rate, betting that market rates will rise above what they're paying. If they're right, they can then release that same ship's capacity at a profit, essentially making money on the spread, without the cargo itself being the source of the profit at all. If they're wrong and rates crash below what they locked in, they're stuck paying for expensive ship capacity in a market that's now flooded and cheap. Some of the largest shipping company bankruptcies in history came from exactly this. Companies that bet wrong on long-term charter rates during a boom and got crushed when the market corrected. The cargo was never really the risk. The bet on ship capacity was. Let's talk about the cost that never, ever goes away, no matter what happens to freight rates. Fuel. A large container ship can burn through enormous quantities of fuel every single day at sea. We're talking hundreds of tons, not gallons. On a long ocean crossing, fuel costs alone can represent a massive percentage of total voyage expenses. Sometimes the single largest line item in the entire operation, larger than crew, larger than port fees, larger than insurance. And fuel prices, like freight rates, aren't stable. They swing with global oil markets, geopolitical events, new environmental regulations requiring cleaner and more expensive fuel blends. So you've got a business already gambling on freight rates, already gambling on charter rates, and stacked on top of that, gambling on fuel prices too. Three separate, wildly volatile markets, all affecting the profitability of the exact same voyage simultaneously. New environmental regulations in recent years have forced many shipping companies to either install expensive exhaust scrubbing systems or switch to costlier low-sulfur fuel blends, a massive capital expense that hit the entire industry at once, regardless of whether freight rates happen to be high or low that particular year. Okay, with trade imbalances, volatile freight rates, charter market gambling, and unpredictable fuel costs all stacked on top of each other, how does anyone make this business work? The shipping lines that actually thrive treat this less like a delivery business and more like a hedge fund that happens to own boats. They use fuel hedging contracts, locking in fuel prices months or years in advance to protect against spikes. They diversify across multiple trade routes, so a slump in one region gets offset by strength in another. They build long-term contracts with major retailers, guaranteeing baseline cargo volume even when spot market rates crash. Some of the largest players also own their own ports and terminals, creating a second, more stable revenue stream from handling fees that exists completely separate from the wild swings of ocean freight pricing itself. The smartest shipping executives will tell you, off the record, that predicting freight rates is basically impossible. So instead, the winning strategy is building a business that survives no matter which direction the bet goes. So the next time you see a massive cargo ship gliding across the horizon, fully loaded, doing exactly what it's designed to do, remember what's actually happening underneath. The empty containers heading home, the freight rate that might be 10 times higher than it was last year, or a fraction of it. The charter bet that could make the voyage wildly profitable or wipe out the company entirely. The fuel bill that never negotiates. Moving your Amazon package was never really the business. It was just the visible part of a much bigger, much wilder bet happening underneath the waterline. If this changed how you look at global shipping, hit subscribe, right now, seriously. Because next week's breakdown is genuinely one of the strangest industries we've ever covered, and you don't want to miss it. What should we tear apart next? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one. See you in the next one.